some of their friends actually come to the gym too. And like once my son worked out with me, and this woman was like, "Oh, it's so nice you work out with your boyfriend." And he's like, "That's my
That's my
mother."
mom.
And she's like, "That's your mother?" And he's like, "I'm never coming back."
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. And if you like it, tell a friend. And if you want to support the show, you can by 1, subscribing and liking our YouTube channel at the DMW Podcast. 2, you can go to our website and sign up to our mailing list at the dmwpodcast.com. And 3, you can follow us on Instagram at the DMW Podcast. Thanks again for all of your support. My name is Stef, and this is the Dead Man Walking Podcast. So, Laurie, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really awesome.
Is this your first time on a podcast?
It isn't.
It isn't? So not your first, okay.
Yeah. You're my first Canadian that, like, people know who you are, because the one that I was on, he was this American guy, and people are like, "Who is he?" And I'm like, I don't know, he just randomly found me. So
I was going to say, so this guy randomly found
Yeah.
you and got you on the show?
he randomly found me, and I did it with him, but like, no, he's not known in Canada, right? So
Okay.
people were like, "Well, who is it?" And I was
Who
like,
was it? What's the podcast?
It's called Didi on the Spot.
Didi?
And he interviews a lot of bodybuilding
Okay.
people, so he found me through that. And yeah, and he said, like, I don't have a lot of Canadian people on, so I was like, okay.
Well, okay. Well, I'm happy that I'm officially the first Canadian podcast.
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Well, look, I wanted you on the show because I think you had started following based on
Patty.
Patty. That's it.
Castiglione.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's it, Patty, because Patty had done
My wedding.
your wedding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So. And then it started with a conversation. And then I remember I said, "Who is this Laurie?" And I saw the bodybuilding picture and I'm like, whoa, she's fucking ripped. She's, yeah, she was killing it. But then I saw your like other account and I see you with cakes.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, there's a story here. There's a dichotomy of like
The
calories,
irony.
thousands of calories on one side and then no calories on
None.
the other side. And I was like, I really wanted to connect to kind of understand the story behind it, and understand what started first. Like, I found it interesting. And then I saw, as we had like a quick conversation, there's even more there. So I'm really excited to hear the story. I think there's going to be a lot of people that can connect with the story too.
I hope so.
I think
or
so.
it could inspire people or help people.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's what it is that's kind of what I really think we can do here today is maybe get some people to hear the story and either be inspired or at least say, you know what, I can do something that I thought maybe was impossible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, what are you working on now? Because we were just talking in the kitchen saying that you're going in for weigh-ins, not your happiest right now.
No, not the happiest right now, but that's okay. I know it's my own fault, so.
But do you have a competition coming up right now? or-
No, I am off season right now. My
Okay.
next competition is in August again. Like,
Okay.
I do the nationals, which is in August,
Okay.
and it's every year. So I'm going back to that one in August. So I am off season. So I'm allowed to, stray a little bit from my meal plan, but I strayed a little too far. And yeah, now I got to get back on track. So, I mean, I try to stay on track as much as possible in off season to keep
Yeah.
myself, because the further away you get is worse.
Oh, yeah.
So it makes your prep longer. You don't want to start far from where you need to be. And yeah, so now I'm back on track, and we'll see what happens at my next weigh-in next week.
But so how does it work exactly? So now like that there's this competition in August next year and you're starting to prep and we're October.
No,
Or-
my full prep will start in February.
Okay.
So, and you know what, it's different for everyone because of age and, the way your body works. And I have to say, my coach, Big Daddy Fitness, is, I don't even know how he knows. It's just the way that, your, like, my prep is a little bit longer. I do a little bit less cardio. So, it takes, prep can be anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Mine is 6. So yeah, it's a bit more, long, but I mean, it's a choice too, right? So
Yeah.
I don't mind so much. And yeah, right now I'm off prep, so I can eat chocolate every now and then.
Which kind of ties in perfectly with the job that you have.
Yes.
So, okay, so you're bodybuilding, you're doing all this work, but at the same time, you have a whole other business that you're running. And you're doing this, 4 a.m. workouts and getting up and all this stuff. Yet you still have like when I went through your business page, there's a ton of jobs that you're working on all the time.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So that's like morning routine is, let's say, being a bodybuilder, and then you come home and you're making cakes and stuff all day.
Bodybuilding's like my alter ego,
Okay.
That's my world of escape. And then yeah, my profession is pastry chef and cake decorator. So I have been doing that for 25 years.
Wow.
I actually recently just started working at a store.
Okay.
So I'm doing a bit less from home for my own business. I'm doing more for them, which is great. I actually love working in an environment with people.
Yeah.
It's easier to stay on my meal plan too
How come?
when I'm in front of people.
Because everyone's watching. They're like, she.
Yes, because I'm not alone being like,
The
nobody
camera's on
can
you. The
see
eyes
me
are on
eat
you.
this, right?
Because if
But
no one sees it, it
does it
doesn't
count?
exist.
It counts when I see my coach because he's like, "What did you?"
Yeah, he knows.
He
You're
knows.
like,
But yeah, so I still do a little bit from home because I supply reception halls
okay,
with dessert. So I do that. And the custom orders, I started to step back a bit and I do it more at the store.
nice.
The store is Dolce Sapore. So if anybody wants to go buy cakes,
Just letting you know.
just letting you know.
So this is okay. So how do you find the time? Because bodybuilding is not like you're going into a workout session for like 30 minutes, fucking around, talking with friends at the gym, and then leaving. It's an intense workout, most likely. And then on plus, you have to do all the prep for the food and getting ready for this work. That's such a discipline. And you're putting yourself at literally the worst thing possible in front of all the sugar and all this stuff. So how do you, that I think in itself is like the a prototype of like how someone can create some sort of discipline in their life. How do you organize and kind of keep yourself under control? Like that's the first
Yeah.
thing that I thought. I was like, when I saw the picture, I was like, I think I even told.
I was like, how hard can I make my life? Let me see.
Yeah,
I'm a pastry chef.
yeah.
Let's be a bodybuilder too. I always worked out. Okay, not always there, but after I had my kids and I decided to stay home, because at the time, I mean, my ex-husband has reception halls and I'm a pastry chef. So that's weekends. And I'm like, someone has to take care of our kids, right? So
Yeah.
I stepped back. I mean, I wanted to be at home with my kids. So I started doing it from home. And I was a rather large mother of three. My twin sister started working out when I got pregnant. And she was like super fit. And I was like,
And it's like physical twin, like
yeah,
look alike. Okay.
yeah, we look a lot. We're fraternal, but we look exactly the same.
Okay.
I was quite a bit larger than her, and I was like, wow, I'm the fat twin. And I was like, I don't want to be the fat twin. So it's because of her that I started working out because I was like,
Yeah.
people would be like, you guys look exactly the same. And I'm like, well,
Do we really?
a little. I'm kind of like two of
Face?
her, but
Face? Yeah, I got it.
So because of her, I started working out and
Okay.
kept in shape. And throughout my second and third pregnancy, I was like, I'm not gonna go back to being this big girl. And the second my youngest child started kindergarten, I got into the gym.
Wow.
And I never looked back. And I was there like every morning at 5 a.m. because I knew, okay, he's got to leave for work. I got to be back before the kids, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, I'm in the gym every day.
Wow.
And it was just like it clicked. It just clicked. And I was like, this is it.
So
And
how long
then
ago was this?
this was my youngest is 15. So it was like 10 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah, I met my coach at a gym. I was working out and we just started chit chatting. And he's like, well, do you do competitions? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not going to
Okay,
do
so
that.
he brought it up to you.
That was like 8 or 9 years ago.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I had friends that did it. And I was like, I thought it was very selfish and really like vain. And I was like, I don't want to do that. No.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to starve myself.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
ridiculous.
commitment. It's
That's it. And I didn't know enough about it,
Yeah.
So I was already disciplined. I mean, I was in the gym every day, and I was quite fit, but the diet, I was eating right.
yeah.
And then COVID, you know, gyms closing and stuff, and everyone was kind of gaining weight, and I was like, I'm not gaining weight. I was like, no, no, no. So I called this coach and I said, I don't want to gain this weight.
Yeah.
Like, can
I'd
we
worked so
train
hard for this,
together?
yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to train with him at his house and this and that, and then I said, you know what? Train me as if I was going to do a competition. Let's start. I'm not going to do it. And he was like, yeah, you're going to do it. And I was like, no, I just,
But what made you say train me as if at this point?
I just wanted to see if I was
Okay,
capable.
you would just want to test yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was like,
Well, did
and
something like on your end bring up that that feeling like you needed to
I think
test
it was,
yourself?
yeah, just to do something for myself.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have 3 kids, you work from home, you have this schedule of always taking care of your kids and making sure everything's with the house and this and that and work. And so you're like, you never do anything for yourself.
Yeah.
And the only thing I did for myself was go to the gym.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me see if I can do this. It was like a challenge to I don't even know why. It was just
Yeah,
like,
sometimes, but it's funny
whatever.
when you think back of like these things and you're like, why did I do this?
I know. I'm like, I don't
But you
know.
were so like determined, like
Yep.
something clicked in your head.
Well, he always did these challenges, right, with all his clients and stuff, and he would post them online, and it was like, oh, well, this guy did like a 10-minute plank, and this guy did like this many. So I was always like, okay, well, let me see if I could do it too,
Yeah.
And then like his clients were competing and stuff, and I was like, no, no. And then I'm like,
Yeah, why not?
yes, I'll try.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're gonna do it, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then one day I said, you know what? Let's just try. Let's try. And I said, I don't want to compete to win. I don't want to compete to show other people or whatever. I said, I just want to mentally see if I'm capable to get there
Yeah.
and to give me the confidence. I just want the confidence. That's it. And I guess like going through the divorce too, it kind of gave me that, let me do something for myself and
Yeah.
give me back my confidence for me,
Yeah.
so that it's not something that the kids can help me with, it's not something that any friend can help me with, it's something that he gives me the tools, but I have to do it.
Yeah.
He can't do the workouts for me, he can't eat the food for me, he could tell me what to do, but in the end I have to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Let me see if I could do it.
And so it's maybe just a question from that was, you said you needed to kind of like rebuild that confidence. And how were you feeling at that point just about life? Because I'm sure when a divorce hits after so many years, it takes a toll on you.
It does, and I mean, I don't want to say you feel like a failure, because I mean, listen, divorce, there's nothing to be ashamed about. It happens. We were very young. I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
And we just grew separately, which is fine. But I guess you kind of feel that, like, I also kind of held on to it for 3 years. I didn't really tell anybody.
Yeah.
So during COVID and this and that, and you're trying to save face and be good for your kids, and then at one point you're just like, I'm so tired. I can't
This facade.
pretend that I'm super happy, and then people are kind of noticing too, like what's going on. And so I think all of that was just part of, I need to do something that's only about me.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be on a team. I didn't want to call people and be like, I need help. I just wanted to do this by myself.
Yeah.
And I told my coach, I don't care if I don't win. I don't care if I don't get medals or recognition or anything. I just want to walk out on that stage, not be scared,
Yeah.
and feel like, wow, I got here.
It's amazing because a lot of times when those types of moments happen in people's lives, a lot of times people kind of disconnect and try to find ways to escape. But you're always looking for an escape. There's a positive one and there's a negative one, but you need an escape route because this cycle just needs to break. I know when I went through my divorce too in 2015, it was, oh my God, this is like, I didn't see this coming, because I don't think anyone ever gets married with the concept of thinking of divorce. Like,
Well,
you
when
think,
we get divorced.
yeah, when we get divorced at the end of this,
don't
then
want
I'll change,
Yeah.
And so you don't really see these things coming.
Ever.
And even if you do see them coming, you're kind of a bit, I don't know, you're like, I don't know if you felt this way, but you knew that something wasn't right, but you're still there.
Of course.
And on your case, you had 3 kids too, so that makes it harder.
Yeah.
But on my end, I didn't have kids, but it was still kind of like, okay, well, let's see what happens. Well, somehow we'll work this out. And when it doesn't,
Like, you kind of feel like, well, I don't want to give up.
well, I don't want to give up. Or it's like, I'm maybe even too lazy to leave. Like, sometimes, it's like,
it's hard.
It's hard because
Divorce
it's
is
like,
really hard.
oh man, we're gonna go through it, and then you hear every terrible story in the world about, you're gonna get fucked, and and the lawyers and
That's
like
it.
all these things. And then I was fortunate enough that my ex-wife and I, we ended amicably, no big problems or anything like
Us
that.
too, same thing. It's
Exactly. So
no
you,
lawyers.
yeah, and it kind of kept it like human perspective of
Yes.
like no one was here to hurt anybody, so we were lucky, but it doesn't always end that way, right? But what I do know is that when that did happen, I had like a rebirth. It was almost like, okay, I'm alone now.
Yeah.
I need to figure my shit out. And where do I really want to be? What do I really want to do? And like those
Or
questions,
like, who am I
who am I?
really?
Exactly.
Like, who am I by myself?
Yeah. Have you really been alone to make that decision?
Yeah.
And so for you, when you had that moment, this kind of perfect, I guess,
Yeah.
moment where you had this opportunity to make a decision for yourself, and then there was this bodybuilding opportunity.
And like, that was my, I don't want to say it was my, the gym was my escape. That's where I went because, you put your headphones on, you do your workouts, and that's your escape. It wasn't a distraction, really. I mean, like, I don't want to say it was a distraction from, all the bad stuff, but
Yeah.
more the escape that, that was the
Yeah, you
positive.
get out of the house, you're going
Yes.
here for an hour, 2 hours, and you're just in a zone.
And you're doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to read a positivity book. I don't want to listen to a podcast of like some smiley, happy guy, like people were sending me, and I was like, I'm not listening to this.
Yeah.
I was like, I am in the negative right now. I do not care what Simon Sinek has to say or how happy he
Finding
is.
your why,
Yeah,
your purpose.
good for him. I was like, I'm mad today, and that's it.
Yeah. I need to just live something right now.
Yes, I need to go put my headphones on with the crappy music and just lift and be happy at the gym.
And what were you seeing every day you were going to the gym now, right? So you had that moment of like, fuck it, I'm gonna try this.
Yes.
And now when you were going to the gym, how was it different than the regular work? Because you had already been working. It's not like you hadn't been in the gym for years. And
That's
now,
it, yeah.
So how did you change that mindset from saying this is something that I just do because I feel like it's an escape, but now I have a goal? Like, how did you switch that on?
You know what? It was more the diet and stuff because like the workouts, I mean, I was already doing the workouts. It was more, okay, you just need to work out like your lats a bit more and your legs lead a little. So the workouts changed a bit, but not to say that it was, because I was already there for like 2 hours every day anyways,
Okay.
So it was like adjust the cardio, adjust this, adjust that. It was the food that came into play, the diet, and that discipline was like beyond,
Like what? Because I love to eat. Like honestly, I
Well,
could
yeah,
fuck.
I mean,
I could eat all day.
yes,
So when
100%.
someone putting the restrictions, I get like an anxiety attack thinking about not being able to eat anything that I want, whatever I want, anytime I want. And I had a bit of that when I was doing the marathon stuff. It was like, okay, let me control more. And I felt better though, to be honest.
For sure.
Physically, I felt better, but it was tough at times to stop yourself from doing certain
Absolutely.
things. So how did you switch, and especially knowing the field of work that you're in, keep that? Like, was it almost like you were saying, I got this. I'm not only I'm doing it with a fucking cake in front of my face. Like I'm
I
not like,
think so.
like it kind of
Yeah.
becomes like this, like I got you. You're not gonna get me scenario.
I think it was like that challenge of, you are going to stay in front of this cake and these 250 cookies all day and you're not going to touch it.
That's fucking crazy.
And sometimes I would literally leave stuff to see if I would listen. Nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah, no, come
I
on.
had slip ups, so
Yeah,
I'm not
for
gonna
sure.
lie for sure. But it was really this. Maybe that was my distraction.
Mm-hmm.
Like really concentrating on the food and because not only was I, making these cakes and these pastries all day, I had to cook for my kids. They're
Yeah.
not gonna eat, lean chicken and like
Yeah, and
rice
white
and
rice
stuff.
and
They were like, do we have to eat that too? I'm like, no, no. So I would cook for them, and
holy
then I would
shit.
sit with my food and eat my food, and I would go to Easter, and we're Italian, not eat the food and bring my own food, or people would come over and I would cook for everybody, and I think that was my biggest challenge.
How annoying must it have been, or how annoying was it when everybody would fucking bother you about this shit? Because
Okay,
being
yeah.
an Italian family,
Yes.
like the moment you do something that's a bit out of the circle, what everyone's used to, they're like, oh, look at this guy over here
Yes.
now. He doesn't want to eat anymore. He's a big
Everybody.
fucking running a marathon. Like all these stupid
Yes.
comments come out.
You know what? It's at the beginning it bothers you,
Yeah.
but then you realize they don't understand,
They
right?
don't get it.
So it's fine. it was hard for my parents because, you know, they're obviously old school. They're like, well, you're not going to eat the meat. It's meat. You could eat it. I'm like, yeah, but you know, no, you're
Not
not
this
gonna-"
way. I can't eat
you
it.
know. But when you explain it to them and they get it, then they kind of lay off. But it's the ignorant ones that are like, you know, oh, look, this bread is so good. You're not allowed. And I'm
Oh,
like,
oh yeah,
well,
that's
I'm
an asshole.
allowed to eat whatever I want. I just choose
Yeah,
to eat. Or people would be like, oh, you don't have a cheat day today? And I'd be like, no. And they're like, well, I cheat every day. And in your head, you're like, well, that's why you look like that. And I look like this. But you don't say that. You're just like, oh, okay. You know,
yeah,
yeah, a lot of it's ignorance, really. And instead of people asking questions and learning about it,
yeah,
they just, you know, oh, well, you can't come out because you don't drink. And I'm like, oh, I can still go out.
yeah,
You know, they're like, yeah, but you don't drink. I'm like, well, I drink water. So what difference does it make what's in my glass?
yeah.
And then they just stop inviting you and you're like, okay, whatever.
Well, it's funny because even at one point I was cutting out a lot of alcohol, right?
For sure.
And it was like it's awkward for some reason. Like when you go out and you don't drink, people look at you
Yeah.
like you're a weirdo. Like what are you doing? Like how could you go out if you don't have a drink? So at one point I even and then I stopped doing this because I would take like a 0% beer, you know,
Oh,
and I'd have that. And I was like, this is so fucking stupid. Why am I having
beers.
this
Yeah.
beer? Like I'll just take a club soda then at this point or whatever it is. But at one point I even felt compelled to have like it looks like a beer, but it's 0% because I just don't want to hear you anymore. Of saying like, oh, you're not gonna have a drink, especially like I used to go out and party all the time.
And
So
the thing is, you're kind of like, well, this is very healthy to not drink. So I should be the one saying to you, are you sure you want to have another drink?
I know.
But I don't, because I don't care what you're doing.
Yeah.
So leave me alone.
But do you find that people, whenever those moments happen, it's almost a bit of a reflection of what they're thinking?
Absolutely.
Like, fuck, like that's crazy. You have enough, discipline to not do this, you know? And they're kind of like testing you in one way
Yeah.
to see if you'll fail.
You know what it
It's a
is?
weird, because it's a friend. So you're like,
A
why would you
lot of,
do that? You
yeah.
know? And then you're like, but you kind of start seeing this weird, like, I wouldn't say the word is jealousy, but there's a weird like relationship that happens when you change your lifestyle with certain groups of friends.
It's an insecurity on their part. And they'll be like, well, I can't do that. And I'll be like, well, you can.
You just choose not
But
to.
you don't want to,
Yeah.
and that's okay. You know, there's a lot of judgment there too. That was really hard because especially like super close friends that they'll be like, well, like why? And like why would you want to do this or why would you want to do that? Or they judge what you're eating, or they're like, well, you know, I can eat whatever I want and this and that, and you're like, okay, but like I am not judging what you're eating.
Yeah.
You can have 8 more pieces of lasagna. I'm not going to say a word.
Yeah.
You can have 8 rum and cokes and you can have fries. And I am not going to say, hey, why are you eating that?
Yeah.
But if I take out my container of 4 ounces of chicken and some rice and some vegetables, everybody wants to
Felt
know.
compelled. Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, it doesn't matter because I'm not judging what you're eating. Why are you, because they like, well, I can't do that. Well, you could
Yeah.
if you wanted to, but the fact that you don't want to is fine.
Did you ever come to a point, and I've read this, where when you're going on a good run, that you do somewhat start judging without like knowing it? That you judge, like in with
Sometimes, yes,
because
absolutely. Well, listen, we all judge,
yeah,
right?
we all
I
judge.
mean, and sometimes it's subconscious too. We don't
Yeah.
realize, like, it'll be more with people that we maybe know, that we don't know as well. Like
Yeah.
not with friends, because with really close friends, as much as they're judging you or whatever, you're like, it's my friend. They're just questioning whatever, blah blah blah. Okay, some friends aren't friends anymore, but that's another story. It's the like I was at my son's basketball game
Okay.
and I took out my oatmeal because it was like when you're on prep,
You have to eat at a
you're
certain time.
timing it.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be bang on, but you know, like, okay, if I don't eat now, in 3 hours, I'm going to be starving. So I got to eat now. So you take out your thing and you're eating, and the other people are like, or,
Fuck
you
you
know, she's eating her pizza and her fries, and she's like, well, why are you eating that? And I was like, well, so then you kind of explain, but you're like, why am I
The
doing
fuck do I have to always explain this
yeah.
shit? Yeah.
And then so she's like, "Oh, so I guess you don't eat carbs." And and you're like, "No, I eat carbs. Actually, a lot of carbs." And then I just looked at this lady and I said, "Can I ask you a question now?" And she says, "Yeah." And I said, "If I was sitting here eating a piece of pizza with a Coke and some fries, would you have even asked me anything. And she was like, no, probably not. I'm like, so please, just let
Let
me
me
eat my
fucking eat.
food. Because I don't care what you're
Yeah.
eating, you know? So, and at that point, yeah, I guess you're kind of judging them, but not badly like, oh, you're eating
Yeah.
whatever. It's just like,
Yeah.
you know what? You're insecure because you know that you are not going to do this. And you feel like I'm judging your meal. I don't care what you're eating because I'm
Yeah.
too busy working on what I'm doing for myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a bit of judgment. I mean, yeah, we
Well,
do.
it's normal, right? It's normal that at a certain point, it also gets frustrating that you always have to answer these questions where
Wait, why am
you're
I
just like,
explaining
why am
this?
I, I don't even fucking know you. Like some people,
Like,
it's like, why the fuck am I talking to you?
yep.
And so now you're training, you're doing all this stuff, and you finally kind of came into that zone of, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try this competition. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced throughout that? Like, what really hit you at one point?
I think losing the friends was one of
Mm-hmm.
the hardest things because people don't get it and they stop inviting you and um then you're like, but like I thought we were friends, even close family too. People
Mm-hmm.
that don't get it, they just kind of, and that was really hard.
How did you deal with that?
I did a lot of crying during my prep because you're also hungry, so you're like really emotional. But okay, I've done 3 competitions. So
Okay.
from the first one to the last one, you really learn a lot about yourself, especially when you're doing this by yourself.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I didn't have my coach,
Mm-hmm.
because a personal trainer, it does become personal because when you go see him, he not only wants to know your weight and all your things, but emotionally, it does affect
Yeah.
everything. Like the stress affects water retention, or so he's like, how are you doing, how are you this, how are you that. So I did sit in his office and cry a few times, and like it was always like this, we're here for you, don't worry, don't
Yeah.
worry, we got
You had a
this, we
support
got this.
system.
Yeah. And I think that one of the hardest things was losing those really close friends and some of the family members too that didn't support it
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't understand it. And then it emotionally affects you, and then towards the end you kind of say, well, you know what, just keep going, you're doing this for yourself, you're doing this for yourself. So you're growing at the same time, like it's okay.
Your self-confidence.
Yes. Yeah. And then you get more and more confident where you accept these things and you say, it's not me, it's them.
Yeah.
So if that's what you choose, then that's okay. And that was really hard. It was really hard to accept it, but once you do, you move forward because then okay, listen, my kids support me, my coach is there for me, the people who are there for me, like some of the people from my gym, like they're not even close friends,
Mm.
were so supportive. They even like for my last competition, like 2 of them actually came all the way to Toronto, and I was like, you guys don't have to come to Toronto. And they're like, no, we literally watched you just starve for 6 months. We're coming to Toronto. I
Yeah.
was like, wow, this is, like, so that helps to get through the shitty moments.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, there's a lot of hard things in prep. There's so many hard challenges. And I think that's why it's so mental. And at one point, you're like, the workouts are so easy. The workouts is the easiest part.
It's crazy because you would think it would be the opposite, right?
Yeah.
From the outside perspective, you're like, the workout is the
No,
hardest
the
part, but
workout's
then you
the
start like,
easiest.
you feel good. It's the escape. It's everything
Yeah.
getting to the gym
That's it.
is the hard part.
The last couple of weeks, the workouts are hard because you're so tired. You're like, I don't even know if I'm here or not. But literally, the easiest part of going on prep is working out.
That's
Because
it's
you're
so,
always there anyways. The food's hard, but the mental stuff is harder. Like body dysmorphia. Oh my god.
I was about to say, yeah, like, so what are some of the biggest things mentally that you had to face outside of the food and the friends?
Mentally, it's harder post show.
What do you mean?
After you finish, like right now, I can't even look at my stage photos
Oh, yeah.
because I'm at like less than 8% body fat. And every person that does this competition is always like, "Oh, I'm going to stay at this weight and I'm going to look like." First of all, you can't. Especially for a woman, it's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
But you're like, "Oh, I look so amazing. I'm going to keep my abs, like I'm staying at 7% body fat." And your coach is like, "Yeah, right? Like you're going to die." And like you can't.
Well, so
So
what is it that, okay, I'm not educated enough to say, okay, I get that. Like, why is it not sustainable to stay at that 7% body fat?
Well, for
Like
a
physically, like,
woman,
yeah.
a healthy body fat for a woman is like 15 and up.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'll hover around 12 will be my most.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because like body fat for a woman, especially when you get older, is very important. Like, not to be super personal, but you lose your period. So I haven't had my period for a year.
Okay.
And I still didn't get it back yet. So,
Yeah.
I'm waiting on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
We don't
Oh, knock,
mind
knock.
at
Yeah, I was going
all.
to say, that's the only person you don't mind
That's
visiting.
it. But it's not good for your hormones,
Yeah.
especially as you get older. Like I'm sure maybe and it also affects like your whole entire body. So
Yeah.
like, water retention, stress, cravings, post show. My first show, the food didn't bother me as much. Post show, I was okay. My second one, like every show, you get a little bit leaner.
Yeah.
And I've only done 3. So, who knows how long I'm going to do this for. The second one, like after being restricted for so long, you're like, oh, now I can indulge,
Yeah. Let me
So
go crazy.
you do. And then, I was still quite lean. And, then you pass Christmas and you gain a bit. And,
The usual.
yeah, but this last show, I don't know what it was. Maybe because I was restricted for so long and I was so lean. Post show, I found was the hardest mentally because I was so
Done. Like, in one way, done mentally? Like, you're exhausted?
mentally exhausted, but I had not had the sugar in so long, I guess, or
Yeah.
the treat meals in so long that I had these crazy binges where I would probably eat close to, I don't know, maybe 8,000 calories in a
Holy
day.
fuck. Yeah.
And I don't
But
even know what I was eating. Like,
yeah.
don't even ask me. I was just like, ooh.
We won't make your coach hear this out. This
Yeah,
episode. We'll
he
edit
knew
this.
I'd be like, Nico. And he's like, why, Laurie? And in a way, he was like, it's okay. You needed that. Just come back. But I couldn't mentally get myself back. I would start and then I'd be like, well, I already ruined my calories for the day. So I might as well eat every single other thing I'm craving.
And I think that, like, what you just said right there is this, fuck it, I'm already here.
Yeah.
Let me go fucking
Yeah.
crazy now.
You're
Let's
like,
just, if I enjoy it. And I get that sometimes
I
because
think I had 8 peanut butter jelly sandwiches in like 20 minutes one day. And I was just like, just eat another one. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm so full. I feel so sick. I'm going to die. And you're like, but I didn't eat ice cream yet. So let me eat ice cream.
it's
And then
almost like you're a stoner. You eat like a stoner at that point.
what are you doing? And then you catch yourself and you cry and be like, oh my God, what did I do? And then you go and do cardio and you cut your calories the next day. And then you're hungry. And then your
It's a vicious circle
it
of just,
is.
yeah.
Because you're supposed to reverse diet. So
What's
this
that
is
reverse diet?
bringing your calories back up to what you're supposed to be at
Okay.
in a healthy way, like
Peanut butter jelly, cookies.
peanut butter is actually very bad for you.
I
Everybody
know.
thinks it's so
I fucking love peanut
oh,
butter
you can
though.
eat the whole jar.
No, I'm not joking. I'm disgusting with peanut butter. Like scoop,
Yes.
like full scoop, and just eating like it's ice cream. I love
Yep.
it. There's a
And
buddy of
like-
mine too, Gino. Like we send pictures of each other, like just eating like idiots.
Like peanut butter and jelly. It's like the greatest thing ever. Who doesn't
know.
like peanut butter and jelly? But like a portion of peanut butter is 1 tablespoon, right? It's 100 calories.
Oh my god! Don't talk to me about that because
And like everyone's like, oh, it's protein. No, it's not. It's fat. It's fat.
It's total fat. Like
But it's
I've been
delicious.
watching all these videos of like, oh, peanut butter is not so good for you. Everyone who's telling you that peanut butter is good,
Yeah.
it's like it's bullshit. And I'm like, fuck this video.
And they're like, eat the natural peanut butter. I'm like, it's the same thing.
It sucks. And it's just not the same.
But yeah, so you're supposed to follow this reverse diet, which your coach gives you, and you're allowed to have that treat meal, and some people just are like have an easier time with it, I guess. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie and sugarcoat it and say, yeah, I did not reverse diet for even 20 minutes. I was like, reverse diet.
Fuck this.
And
No
I'm
diet.
like,
Let's go.
I would measure all the food, and I'd be like, tomorrow I'm reverse dieting. Yeah, right. And like I was so ashamed and
I was
embarrassed.
gonna say, how did you feel about that?
I
Because
felt
you go
really-
from these like 3 shows
Yep.
of I saw the pictures. They're insane, phenomenal. I'm not saying to make you feel bad about
No,
it, but it's like that idea where it's like holy shit, and then you come to this point where you can't even control it anymore, and you're like,
And I was like, I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm having a hard time with this because, like, I would talk to other girls, even guys, and they were saying the same thing. Like, how do you I was like, why can't I control this? If I was so spot on for 6 months
Mm.
and able to not eat the food in front of me, why can't I control it now? And yeah, you feel embarrassed, you feel ashamed, you feel like you're gonna die some days. I would feel so sick at the end of the day.
Yeah, because your body's not used to it
And I
anymore.
would almost be like, just throw up and you'll stop eating. And then you're like, oh, but I didn't eat like this kind of chocolate yet. You're like, let me just have one piece.
It's crazy that you know what you're saying because it is such like almost your alter ego from the other perspective just shows up and is
Yeah.
looking to completely destroy this
Yes.
person. And I find it's always this constant battle. Like when you do something that you're really proud of, it's almost like this other side of you comes back to almost
Yeah.
destroy it. And you
It's
don't
like
even,
the shoulder, the
yeah,
guy
it's
on
like you
the
have that
shoulder.
evil and
Eat
that
it, eat it, eat it. It's okay. Yeah.
but it's so funny because at one point that person isn't even there. Like you can barely hear it. You know that person is there, but they're almost like so far away. You're so focused in the
Yeah.
clarity and I felt like that way with the marathon, like we were talking about earlier. And then even a few weeks before, that voice was creeping in from the marathon to say like, "Oh fuck, it's you're
Like, why are you
bored.
doing this?
This
Why?
is boring.
Yeah.
Another 20K. Like, do you want to spend another 2 hours running and you can enjoy your Sunday morning? Maybe play with the baby this morning,
Yes.
and you kind of like have all these things." And then the moment the marathon finished, like I was saying earlier, was I didn't even want to run. I don't want to fucking know anything. Like, and it was smash McDonald's, like
Yeah.
just like do something else.
Like,
Like,
I don't want to weigh
I
my
don't want to.
food.
I don't want to. I don't want
Just
to
want to
care
eat.
about like the carbs and all this stuff. And running on my Sunday mornings was like I would show up at like 4 or 5, like 5 o'clock in the morning, get up, get ready for the run. That was my big run of the week, and I had all the little ones, and like it was so
Yeah.
organized and so on target, and became like this like way of life that just got shattered on the
Yeah.
25th of September. It's like post race.
And you're like, how come I can't
I can't
get
even go
it?
for I can't like now I'm
Yeah.
going for 20, 30 minute runs. I'm like just do 20, 30 minutes. Like just do it. And I swear to God, to go outside, it's like
And you're like, oh,
ugh.
I don't want to do it. Yeah.
And now it's like slowly coming back. But it's
Yes.
it's it's a month now. It's like almost a month that it's taking me to get my brain back in motion.
I feel the same. And I was like, I don't know why. Like, why can't I get it together? You
And what
know,
were all your friends saying? The people that have gone through this, like what did they do to
a
kind
lot
of
of the girls were like, same thing, same thing. And I guess it just clicks at one point. Cause like I would call my coach and I would be like, I don't know what to do. Like, I feel like I have an eating disorder. I feel like I need a psychologist. And he's like, Laurie, just eat the food. And, the way he explained it too was, the reverse diet has a certain amount of calories with a certain amount of carbs to make you feel full, to not make you feel hungry again. So if you would just freaking follow it, you won't have the binge because you're not going to be hungry.
yeah.
So I would cut my calories because I knew I would have the treat. And then obviously you're hungry. But if you're
Yeah.
eating the right kind of food,
Yeah.
you'll, and
Your body
of
won't
course,
lie
you
to
feel
you.
like shit when
Yeah.
you eat the crap. So you're like, well, I feel sick. And he's like, yeah, because you're eating garbage, obviously, but
And it has
mentally,
it has a
it
huge
is.
impact. Like the food that you eat, I find whenever I'm eating like shit, I'm down. I'm depressed.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
And then if I'm eating healthy and I'm sleeping well and
Yes.
I'm not drinking and I'm not smoking weed, it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I feel like a brand new
100%.
person. And that's one thing that because I noticed like even now in the last month, I noticed that alcohol had entered back into the system a little more. I was smoking joints a little more. Then at one point I was barely smoking during my marathon, like the training. And I felt so much better, like even alert.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it was like I started smoking a little more, and then all this stuff. So it's like okay, no. And I told myself I hit that breaking point too, where
Yep.
I'm like, it's done. Stop smoking weed. You got to cut back on the alcohol again. Like only on a special occasion will you have just a drink or two, and you don't have to get smashed anymore.
Yeah.
Like all those things and I feel like the brain is coming back, but it needed like a month off. Like it just
Absolutely.
off. I
And
don't
that's
think.
yeah, that's what he kind of said it's okay. You needed that. I'm like, but it's not okay because now I'm like at my weight plus
Yeah.
10 pounds, because at my last weigh, and he was like, what? Like, he's like, gaining the 15 pounds is normal, but he's like, you're 10 pounds more than you should be. And I'm like, oh my, I think for me it was that. It's seeing the
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah.
that I'm like, oh my God, how did I go from this to that in 2 weeks, And then you're
And how
like,
do you stay positive about that? Like, how do you turn that into a positive story? Because a
oh
lot of
yeah.
times you're like, that's it, it's
Well,
over.
you
I'm
cry for a
fucking,
while. I
yeah.
cry all the way home, and then I call my gym buddy, and he's like, "Stop being a little bitch."
The Goggin showed up.
Just yeah. Then like, and I think for me, like my gym buddy is this 22-year-old guy, and he is one of the most mature, smartest guys I've ever met in my life. And I don't think I would have made it through the last prep without him.
No, how come? What was he helping you with at
Calls
that
you
point?
out on your bullshit, first of all, and he'll be like, stop fucking crying. Just
Yeah.
stop being, and I'd be like, oh, I binged, I this, I that. And he's like, so too late now, you can't take it back.
Yeah.
Just fucking follow it tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, okay.
It
You know?
isn't it
Yeah.
so funny that
Yeah.
you have a restart every day.
Absolutely.
And we think that like the fuck up that I did yesterday has to carry over to tomorrow. But it really it doesn't. Like but we
Calories
think
do, but
the calories
Yeah.
are staying.
But-
Those motherfuckers are staying.
exactly. You're like, okay, you can't do anything about it
You've done it
anyways.
already.
It's done.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Exactly. And
So-
that's kind of something that I've gotten a lot better at now. Where it's like, look, it's okay, you fucked up. You fucked up. Move on. Move
That's
on
it.
and get over it as fast as
Keep
possible.
going forward.
Yeah, because you can't go back anyways.
I keep it as like, I always say it like a suitcase, especially like through the divorce, through everything, even through anything with family or whatever. Like everybody has this suitcase that they carry, and you can either fill it up and make it heavier, or you can, unpack. But you never unpack everything and stay where you are.
No, it's
you
impossible.
know? Because if you do, so you have your sad days and you have your shit, but don't unpack it and stay there.
Yeah.
Take what you need and keep going.
And you find that like in those moments, I don't know about you, but for me, there's like someone that says something, or there's a book that you read, or there's a fucking cheesy quote or something.
Like an Instagram thing. You're like, how did they know?
How did they know? The algorithm's on
Yes.
fire, right? And you're like,
It could even
it's
be
that one thing,
word.
and it just changes everything.
Yeah, and you're like, oh.
And you're like, what a fucking clown! Like, why am I being a clown? I need
Yeah.
to like, and it's just this ultimate wake up call. I remember I had that last August. I was coming back from Quebec City, and we went to go watch Rage Against the Machine in Quebec City, and it was a great show, and we partied really hard, like really hard,
Which is awesome.
which is awesome. I had a great time. But on the way back home, there was like, I remember I got a text. My mom wasn't doing well. She had to go to the hospital. There was all this stuff, and I just said, okay, I got to change. Like, I don't want, I just like, and I don't know what it was. I can't remember what it was. I think I had seen something on Instagram, and that call at the same time. I was going home feeling like shit physically from the weekend itself.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And then I remember I just stopped everything. I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, and I did it for like 4 or 5 months of just like getting like healthier and feeling better. And it was like that one moment in an hour, and everything switched, and my mind had a focus.
Yeah.
And then all the way up, and then it carried over after again, and then like you have a little break, and then it carries over. But what I'm noticing is that the bad periods don't last as long anymore.
That's it.
And like to completely get rid of them, I think it's impossible.
I think you need them.
You need like that, you need that getaway,
it's
a
kind
bit of
a
like
break, as long as it's not like bad where you dig yourself in a hole.
Yeah.
But you need those moments because it does make you a bit stronger and give you that extra push.
And probably also it reminds you of why you were doing this for so long.
Yeah.
Because then you kind of lose sight of it. Like when I was saying about the running, like at one point I just didn't want to run. It was right before the marathon. I was getting tired of running. And now it's like, oh, but I missed how I felt. I felt really good when I
Yes.
was running consistently. So it's like, I'm getting excited to start running again. I'm getting excited. Like at
Yeah.
one point where I was bored with it, the disconnect for the last 3-4 weeks has helped me recognize like how important it is to eat better.
And that you're like, oh, I did feel like shit for those weeks. So now when I'm back on track,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? Yeah, I feel better. That's why I was doing it.
Yeah, and you kind of, that's why I agree with you. And when I went to go see my nutritionist, because just now I had like my appointment, I go like once every quarter to stay like, where am I? Like, how am I doing? And go talk with him. And he's like, dude, it's very normal. It's very normal that after you do a big event or something in your life, you're so in a tunnel vision that you don't think about anything with this. You focus that you completely drained after it, mentally, physically, emotionally, that your body's like, I need to not think about this. I need to just fuck around for a bit. And then your body will tell you, when I'm done fucking around, I got to go back now.
Like I literally woke up one morning and I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like the binges are over. I'm done. I'm good. Like,
Sorry, go ahead.
And I did have, I had a binge a couple of days ago, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And I was able to stop myself and say, what are you doing?
You're like, bro, come
Some
on.
of them were like, oh my God, like, how are you still eating and not dead yet?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I think those moments are, I had one a few years back. I met, like, you meet people at the gym or you see the same people every day, right?
Yeah,
So you
it's like
start talking.
family at that point.
Yeah. And this one guy, I will never forget it. This guy, Tony, um, we were chit chatting or whatever. And I don't remember what we were talking about. And I said something to the point where, oh, I can't do this or whatever. And he said, Laurie, you're a grown ass woman. Get your shit together. And I was like, and like I went home like super offended. I was like, who the hell does this guy think he is? And then you're like, oh, he's
He's
right.
right.
I was like, he's so right.
It's
And I
true.
was like, get your shit together. Just fucking like stop crying like a baby. Like you are a grown ass woman. You have kids. It's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough. I mean, we have our moments still, which we always will, like I have a little corner in my kitchen where I sit on the floor and I cry. Actually, I haven't cried there for a really long time. Because I think of it. But yeah, and then, those moments, anything, a quote that you might see or whatever, and you're like, oh,
I
shit.
remember hearing something, I think it was Goggins or somebody else, and they always have like these mental lines like, fuck your feelings at a certain
Yeah.
point. Like, fuck because they're actually tricking you. They're not your friend right now. They're not
Yes.
real. Like they're at a certain point, you have to be almost a machine
Yeah.
and just say, this is not real. Like I got to stop thinking like this and have to stop now. Like I can't even let it sink in anymore for 1 second more, because once it creeps in, it's almost like a cancer, and then it just infects the whole day. It
Yep.
affects you with your family. It affects you at work. It affects you on everything. And you don't realize
And
it that it's
people
there.
notice.
And they know 100%. You disconnect.
Yeah.
You're not as sociable. You're not as like
I think
involved in
sometimes
the
you're
message.
not even nice. And
Yeah.
people
Oh
are like,
yeah.
well, what's
Sometimes
wrong
yeah.
with you? And you're like, oh shit. And you're like, yeah, I am being an asshole right now.
Yeah.
Especially to my kids. I'll be like, oh my God, guys, I'm so sorry. I was such an asshole today.
Yeah. Same thing with my girlfriend. Sometimes I'm
know?
like, oh man, I was a fucking dick. I was like, this is not
like
cool.
you catch yourself like, oh shit, that's not nice.
Yeah.
And then you're like, who am I? Who am I? What did I do?
And then you feel like shit, and then
Yes.
it's another, so that's why I find those things, like whenever I get to that point, like you were saying, that quote just comes in, it's like, fuck your feelings right now, and just go to work.
Yeah.
Go to work on something. It doesn't even have to be the gym, like anything.
Distract
Complete like
yourself.
3 things today that you just need to get done.
Yeah.
Like it just, I don't know why that
Like
number
clean
3.
your house or 3 things. It's true. It's always like 3 things.
Yeah, just 3 things. And I know something that helped me a lot is like not just 3 things. It's like do 1 for yourself, 1 for like work, and 1 you really don't want to do.
Oh, that's good. I
Like
that.
1 for yourself, 1 for work, and 1 thing you really don't want to do today. And that's the one you almost want to start with, is that 1 thing you really don't want to do. Get it out of the way first thing in the morning as quickly as possible. And you're like,
Cardio.
yeah, whatever, cardio, whatever it is, anything. Like even if it's, if you're working and it's like a report you have to finish or whatever it is,
Yeah.
like finish that one first. You got to get that one out of the way, because if you can get the one thing
Keeping
you
that.
really don't want to do,
Yeah, I like that.
and it's like you already won the day. Like you won the day because that was
Yeah.
the hardest one. And so I don't remember if someone told me that or I kind of put that shit together, but I remember seeing something along those lines somewhere of like, you got to put like
For me,
3.
it's always make your bed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, even if the day goes to shit and like I get to the end of the day and I didn't finish everything I had to do, at least I made my bed.
I know, there's something
Like,
when you see it,
I did one thing today.
when your bed is not done, you're a mess.
I know,
Like you
I'm like-
know that your head is not on right
Yep.
now. You know it. It's physically there. You see it, that there's something wrong with you. You need to get your shit together, because if you
Yeah.
can't even put your bed together,
And like when I pass my kids' rooms and their beds aren't made, I'm like, oh God, you guys,
close that shit.
make the bed. Like one of them always makes their bed. My oldest one, I don't even open the door, but I don't know what it is. But yeah, making your bed. But I'm gonna keep that. Do something you don't want to do.
Yeah, it definitely, because then it's like, I got you.
Yep.
I got you. You don't have me today. It's like this weird like mental battle that you won from the start of the
Absolutely.
day. So okay.
And that's what prep is about too, because like, sometimes I would look at my food and be like, I do not want to eat this white fish again. I think I ate white fish every single meal for like 3 months.
But okay, so now like jumping on the food, how do you keep yourself engaged and like doing this, like knowing, because food is such a big part, like even just it's in your face all the time from so many people, commercials on TV,
Yes.
ads, some food porn everywhere on Instagram. You're working with food
Oh my
all
God.
day.
If you would see my feed during my prep, it's literally like there would be like 2 gym things and everything was food.
It's
And I would
insane.
be saving that, like, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna eat this, and then at one point you're like, oh my God, I gotta delete all these.
Yeah.
Yeah, food.
Well, that's how do you like in those moments where you are eating that white fish for fucking 3 months, and if you see a fish, you're gonna punch it at this point because you're just so disgusted with eating it.
Yeah.
How do you stay the course? Like that's the part. Like what are you using as a purpose at that point, or what are you digging into to
For
say fuck it,
me,
you got to eat this now?
I was like, this is not about the food. Like, none of this is about the food. The food is, one of the biggest parts because that's what you're fueling your body with, and that's what's getting you to your goal is, and again, I don't know how the hell he calculates it, because sometimes I'd go for a weigh-in and he'd be like, okay, 30 grams less of sweet potatoes, and I'm like, 30, how do you know?
Yeah.
Just do what he's, and he would just say, just eat the food. Okay, I'm eating the food.
Yeah.
And
Don't think, just
or
do.
he would give me this like cheat meal, and he'd be like, okay, you can have like a burger with like 2 patties and like extra fries, and I'm like, are you sure?
Are you fucking with me?
And then he'd be like, I think you need a piece of cheesecake too, and I'm like, I'm gonna be fat tomorrow, and he's like, Laurie, just eat it. I'm like, okay.
Well, I remember I went on vacation to Jamaica one year with a friend of mine for his vacation. And one of the guys that was with us, he was doing competitions for bodybuilding. And he was at the gym every morning on vacation. He didn't fuck around. But then he used to have this one day that I saw him eat so many fucking pancakes.
Oh my God, pancakes.
It was so insane. Like the way he was eating, it was insane. I remember, but I looked at him and he was on fire. Like body looked fantastic, like crazy. Clearly, everyone on the beach was like, every girl that was walking by, they weren't staring at me. They were staring at him. And but then when he would have those cheat days, they were like insane. So how does that work? Like you doing all these amazing days, like
I don't even know how it
Okay.
works, because it freaks me out. Honestly, the cheat meal freaks me out. I'm like, I'm afraid to do it almost.
Yeah.
And I actually did. I went on all inclusive when I was on prep, and he's like, "You're going on vacation on prep." I was like, it's not about the food. It's about the vacation.
Yeah.
Same thing. I was in the gym every morning, and I was sitting at the table with all the people I was with my scale.
Yeah. With this scale.
And they're all
They're
like
thinking
going to
you're
the
doing a drug deal.
buffet and filling it, and I'm like with my scale, like, oh, only 5 ounces, And the cheat meals, I hate calling them cheat meals.
Yeah, because I always
You're
found
not
that
cheating,
term.
okay?
You're not cheating. It's
Because
part of
you're
the
allowed.
program.
You're treating, because
Yeah.
cheating, you're not supposed to do it, right? So everyone's like, the cheat meal. I'm like, it's the treat meal. For the longest time, I wouldn't take them
Oh yeah.
because I was
You
scared.
were scared.
And he would tell me, you need to have this treat. It's for your mental. It's for your mental. And I'd be like, I can't do it. And like, I remember the last one, he's like, please eat the cheat meal, So, and there's a difference. There's the cheat meal and then there's refeed. So the cheat meal, I swear to God, I could probably eat all those pancakes too. Like, I would go for breakfast with my kids and I would order the biggest thing on the menu with, like, the extra pancakes or whatever, eat all of mine and finish all of theirs. And people are like, where are you putting it? I'm like, doesn't matter. It's just, I'm like, I'm not full. I'm good.
And now, actually just made me think of something. Your kids are watching you do all this stuff, right? What was their reaction seeing their mom going into bodybuilding?
I think
Originally
their
versus
friends
now,
think
let's
I'm
say.
cool, but they don't.
I think that's every kid never thinks
Yeah.
that parents are cool.
Oh, you know what? I think they're proud. They were very proud. They're teenagers at the same time, so I don't think they. I don't know. You know what? I don't want to say they don't care, but they're boys too, so they don't show that they care. My youngest was super, super like proud and showed that he was proud, and he was really happy. And he was like, I cried a lot in front of him too. He was always like, Mom, you could do this. He's like, I know you can do it. You're gonna win. I know it. I know it. My older one too. My middle one doesn't. He's not. He doesn't show emotion a
Yeah.
lot, but I think he was proud as well. Like, they came to it. Thank God. But I don't know. You know what? I would actually love to sit down with them and be like, how do you guys feel about this? Because at one point they were like, he's like, give me your phone. And he like blocked all his friends on my Instagram. He's like, you don't look like other moms. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
Like, and like, oh, my friends, they all like, they think you're cool or whatever. And I'm like, okay, sorry, you know, but,
Yeah.
or they'd be like, my friends are coming, put a sweater on. I'm like, really? You know, like,
But it's funny because that's I was just thinking about it now because I'm sure like with boys in the house and everything they're like, oh, their mom, and some guys it's like, oh, I don't want to see, I don't want people to see my mom. I mean, you know, it's like it's crazy like that, you know. So I'm wondering how they were reacting.
like
And
some of their friends actually come to the gym too. And like once my son worked out with me, and this woman was like, oh, it's so nice you work out with your boyfriend. And he's like, that's my
that's my mom.
mother. And she's like, that's your mother. And he's like, I'm never coming back.
That's it. It's over. It's so funny when whenever the parents are doing something and the kids are around, you could always see the kids. They're like, oh fuck, and now I gotta deal with this.
That's it. Yeah. So like a lot of their friends would ask a lot of questions about it. But like I think maybe because I'm their mom, they were just like, okay, whatever, mom,
Yeah.
you know. But they were proud when they did come with me to. They came with me to Toronto, and yeah, it was. I hope they were proud.
You're like, I'm gonna ask them now. I don't know. If
Yeah, I think they were more like, please don't make us eat your food.
yeah.
You know?
I just don't eat whitefish.
Yeah,
Don't.
and they were, you know what? They were the most excited when I would get the treat meal because I'd be like, "Oh my God, guys, I got a treat meal. Like, where are we going? Or like, what do you guys want to eat?" And I remember it was my son's birthday, and my youngest, he wanted like pasta and the whole thing, and I was inviting the whole family, and you know, I couldn't eat any of it. Um, but he had given me the go ahead for this treat meal. So I said, we'll save it for breakfast on the weekend because there was something about breakfast. For me, like
Yeah.
steak or breakfast is the ultimate cheat meal. So it's like Sunday we're going for breakfast. And it was the Thursday that we were having everyone over. And the pasta, I made the sauce, I made the pasta, I made the meatballs, I made,
You're a
you know, I
sick
made the
person.
cake, I made all the, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, you guys, and I have my fit, and
Whitefish.
my son looks at me and he's, Mom, just do it. And I said, but what about the breakfast? He's like, just do it. He's like, just do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So and at that point, it wasn't really about the food.
Yeah.
It was just about being able to enjoy it with
Yeah. A
my kids
moment.
and my family.
Yeah.
You know, so I think for them, like whenever I would have that treat, it was like,
A moment.
we can all share this together, you know?
Yeah.
And I went for so long without the treat. Even my parents felt bad all the time. So he had given me this refeed. I think it was 3 weeks before the show. He's like, you need to go have the burger. I called my dad. And I was like, Dad, I'm allowed to have the burger. And he's like, well, where are we going? You know?
He's like, I love you so much.
I called the kids. I'm like, guys. And like, we all went, and it was like this like, oh my God, I almost thought I was going to cry. I was like,
Yeah, because it's like, fuck, you haven't done this in
Yep.
forever. And it's a family moment at this point. It's like Christmas.
it is. I was like, oh my God. Like during Easter, I couldn't even eat with them. And so I think that aspect of it is like, it gets them really excited because I think it's hard for them too to watch me
Yeah.
all the time. Like I would order pizza for them and all their friends, and I'd be like eating my fish, you know,
Yeah.
smelling the pizza. And so also because when you're hungry, sometimes you're an asshole.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
for
like,
sure.
you know, yeah, I'm like yelling at them and this, and I'm like, oh, sorry guys. So I
And
think,
it's also seeing everybody all the time. It is no matter what.
Yeah.
It hits. It hits home at a certain point where you're like,
but I
fuck.
feel like for them it was really hard too. And I remember at my last show, like I won, but there's a pro card which I did not get, which is
So yeah, because I saw that you won. I saw a few medals
Yeah.
there, but
So
so what's a pro card? Like
the
what's
pro
that?
card is like you can go and do pro shows.
Okay.
So like, and like one person in the category gets this pro card.
Okay.
So I miss it twice. But I mean, sometimes people go for 10 years before they get it. But
Okay. I
I'm
didn't know
getting
that.
it next year. So when I didn't get it, you know, we're all sitting at the victory meal after, and they were like, are we doing this again? I said, guys, I'm so sorry. We're doing this again next year. And they were like, oh God, are we doing this again next year? You know, so they all know what's coming in February.
So this is the goal for the new one, is getting that pro card.
Just want to get, and even when I did my first one, I was like, I don't care about the pro card. And you know, I was like, I don't even want it. It's no big deal. I just want to do the show. And then when I didn't get it, I was like,
It bothered you as.
I think I want this pro card, you know? Do I know what I'm going to do with the pro card? No.
Doesn't matter sometimes.
Do I know if I'm going to do a pro show? I have no idea. Maybe I'm just going to hang it on my wall. Maybe I'm going to do a pro show. I have no clue. It's a goal. I want the pro card.
So that's what's kind of getting you back on track.
Yeah.
Is that pro card?
Yeah, because like I won my first show, which was a regional show, which sent me to nationals. And, I had told my coach, I'm doing this once. And then when I won, he's like, well, we could go to nationals. And I was like, yes.
Yeah.
And then,
Shit changes when you
yeah.
win.
And I would say, it doesn't matter if I don't win. And he's like, oh, you're going to win. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. But obviously, you want to win. Then I won the nationals and I didn't get the pro card. So he says, well, do you want to do it again next year? I'm like, yeah. I was like, we are going back again next year. And I always say, like, okay, but maybe in 6 months I might change my mind. And I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah, you know yourself already.
I'm not changing my mind. So, yeah. And then when I didn't get it this year, I was really disappointed because I really thought I was there, My conditioning was so much better. And I think even he was like, we kind of took it personally, like, wait a minute. That was mine, So am I going back next year? You better believe it. I'm going to get that damn pro card.
That's awesome.
I had to apologize to my whole family. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm putting you through this again. But it is what it is. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Oh, look, that's awesome. I'm so happy you came by today. Like, and I think...
thank you so much for having me. This is really, really...
And you fucking, like, totally, like, made me understand how hard it is to do it, but how rewarding it can be, too, at the same time. And that drive, like, you walked in not knowing what you want to do with this, and now you kind of, like, recognize, like, this is one of the best places to be at the same time for yourself. So... Hopefully the binges are out now,
I hope
and you're on track. I can hear. Well, it sounds like it in your voice. It sounds like that vision is back. Like, and now it's like, okay, stop fucking around. I'm back on track. So
because off season you don't go for your weigh-ins weekly either, right? And so with my coach too, he's always like, it's when we get it. And then when I saw the numbers last week, I was like,
it's a wake up call.
Oh my God, and like I knew I couldn't go weigh in this week, but he's like, it's okay, next week. I'm like, I just need to see the numbers.
Yeah, that's the motivator right now.
For me, yeah. For other people, because he's like, don't fix yourself so much on the numbers. But for me, it's seeing the numbers. I just got to see them.
I'm like you. When I see a number, now I know where I am today. Yes. And where I want to be after.
And you're like, don't waver too far from that number.
Yeah. And as long as you see like this number and you did the right things, and maybe it didn't budge much now, but you did the right things that, maybe it just didn't show now, but it's going to show. I know it's going to show. And I'm the same way. I need like a starting point. Like, where am I today? This is where I am. Where am I going? So I'm super excited to see what's going to happen. Hopefully we'll have you back on with a pro card.
Are you going to run another marathon?
It's funny you say that. When I finished it, I said, fuck this. I'm never doing this again. And now it's like the opposite. Now I'm saying to myself, maybe, I told you about the injury and how it still ended. And it ended with a way where mentally I really feel stronger because of that. Like, I did something that I never thought I was going to be able to do.
And didn't give up.
And I didn't give up. Like, it was just, I got through it. And the time wasn't my favorite. It wasn't where I wanted to be. But I finished it when I thought it was over at one point when my ass was on the floor. So that is definitely something that I'm super happy I walked away with. When I see the medal, that's what I see, is that moment.
That you didn't give up.
That I didn't give up. But there's a part of my ass that says, but I want to finish it. I want to beat that time, So I think that's the motivator where I said this next period is like getting back to loving running again and then putting that goal again. And I feel like there's going to be definitely another marathon in the future. It's just a question of, I gotta, like, and now that I feel my brain is coming back into it, it's like, okay. Yeah. Like, kind of the same way what you're doing with the training now. It's like, okay, fuck the binges, fuck this stuff. I got to get back in now.
You also know that, it's so far, so I have time. But then you're like, well, I don't want to start further away. So, yeah, because even me, I'm like, it's only next year. But then you're like, well, wait a minute.
But if I fuck up for 6 months, it's going to be double the effort in the last 6.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you do the marathon, the marathon will be after the show, right?
I think, the one that I'm thinking of actually is in Buffalo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because a friend of mine told me she's ran marathons, and she said one of the nicest ones that she's ever done, because I really find the Montreal one, though, to be honest, was the fucking roads. And
oh, no, yeah.
It's so terrible.
You're like, look, another cone.
Oh, no, you're running on Saint Laurent at one point. It's disgusting. Like, you're running in front of solid gold. Like, all these things. And there's, like, no cheering people, like, because you're in this, like, man. Yeah, it was really not nice, to be honest, the track itself. Certain pockets were really nice, but outside of that, it wasn't like a nice track. It's not motivating, to be quite honest. It was like a solo run. Like, even I was talking with people after, there was like no areas where there was cheering like people. Like, it just wasn't. It didn't feel like a marathon at certain points.
Like, I'm just having a run.
Yeah, it was like a run in some shitty area of the city. But I heard this one in Buffalo is like you run like along the Niagara Falls. and it finishes.
Wow.
They drive you into Buffalo or something like that, like into the U.S., and then you run to the border where there's the Niagara Falls. Like that's where the end of the race is. So I
Well,
heard it's
that's motivating.
yeah, I heard it's so nice. So I think that's the one. I think it's in October next year.
Nice.
So I missed it for this year, which I wouldn't have been able to do anyways.
Yeah.
But I think that's the one. I'm like, I have my eye on that one. It sounds really fun. It sounds different. It's out of the city, like in a different area completely.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so it sounds like it's gonna be fun. It sounds excruciating at the same time, but fun at the same time.
Well, maybe I'll just have to come and cheer.
Okay, and maybe I'll come to Toronto.
I'll have
Where's it?
cookies for you
Oh my
at the
god,
end. There's your motivation.
there's the motivation. When's your show though? You said
It's
it's
going
next
to be
year,
beginning of August
and it's where in Toronto.
in Toronto. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm wishing you
So,
all the best. And if somebody wants to follow or like see the whole, like, because you have two accounts, right? There's
Yeah.
the personal account, but then there's the business account. So
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of maybe.
I kind of post on both. I mean, more gym stuff on my personal account for sure. And then, I'll share stories to my business account just so that people can see what I'm doing and, how psychotic I really am. But I will definitely share your podcast and hopefully we can, bring light to more people.
Well, yeah, but I think there's a great story here of like discipline, like just change. So I think, and then even being a mom of three, having the time to do this, I think a lot of people struggle with a lot of these things, thinking that it's impossible for them. And I think you have right now what you're proving is that it's not impossible.
You know what it is? It's not because you also think it's kind of impossible too, but I think it's whether you want to do something or not. Because
Yeah.
if you really want to do something, you're gonna do it. And when people are like, "Oh, I can't do it," I'm like, "No, it's because you don't want to."
Yeah.
Like,
Or you
or
haven't
people
found
are
the
like,
reason.
"Oh, I wish I could have arms like yours," and I'm like, "Well, you could,
Yeah.
but if you really want to run a marathon and finish it, you're gonna finish it. If you really want to do it, you will."
Yeah.
And
You're 100%
I didn't
right.
think I could do it either.
Same.
And it's not impossible. It's because I really wanted to do it. So when I really want to eat all those cookies, there's a bigger purpose. Like
Yeah.
I want to get on stage and win this medal. So it's bigger than eating and binging and having all the food.
Well, that's awesome. So, like, I'm really looking forward to connecting, staying connected with you, and
Absolutely,
seeing
yes.
this happen. So, thank you again for coming.
Thank you for
and
having me.
I can't wait to hear the stories.
Yes.
That's it.
Thanks so much. It was awesome.
Hey, thanks for checking out the show. It's been awesome working on this project. And if you like it, tell a friend. And if you want to support the show, you can by 1, subscribing and liking our YouTube channel at the DMW Podcast. 2, you can go to our website and sign up to our mailing list at the dmwpodcast.com. And 3, you can follow us on Instagram at the DMW Podcast. Thanks again for all of your support. My name is Stef, and this is the Dead Man Walking Podcast.